afternoon or evening, people. Different type of attire for me today. Long story, I'm not going to get into it, but we're here to talk about Spurs v Arsenal. For those who live under a rock, Spurs are playing Arsenal this weekend as part of the Mind series for charity. I think it's for charity. Arsenal obviously played Chelsea previous weekend, and we played Chelsea on a Wednesday. So this is effectively the last fixture of this series before the real thing begins in a week and a bit's time. I had to bring some Arsenal fan favorites. Lee, how you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad, Toby. Not too bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
from
all
one
good.
baldy to another.
Again?
I said from one baldy to another.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Spurs and Arsenal are the same boat here. We're not sort of happy at the moment, really. So
Yeah,
we can discuss, but certainly I think for a long time, for the first time in a long time, we're in the same boat. But unfortunately, ladders. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
and we're in the same boat we was for 2-3 years.
yeah. I mean the title of this video is "We're Both in the Mud," and it's one thing I'm going to keep reiterating to some of the fans in your fan base, because I got a couple of my mates who are looking at this Kane situation that we'll touch upon, and they're like, "Oh, Spurs are mudded. Spurs are this." I'm like, "We're in the same boat. Like,
yeah,
whatever we are, you are." So there's no like one-upmanship here, because what's the point when both sides are poor? And I think, speaking of poor, Dan, of course, you can speak on that. Dan, welcome to my channel. First time ever on here as well. How you doing?
Cheers, bro. I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having us on, man. This is it's a strange one, isn't it? Because we normally come in and banter about how we are and how you're ahead of us, or that we're catching you, or we're ahead of you and you're catching us. At the moment, it's the perfect title, because both of our clubs and the fans of our clubs, or the majority of our fan base, are just down in the dumps, mate, because there's nothing exciting to be positive about. And obviously we're not in a situation where we're losing our best player, where potentially you are. So I suppose that's the only positive for us, that we're keeping some of our best players for once. But I just think, Tobes, you're going through what we did, bruv, like a few years ago, and I feel for you. Listen, I should be laughing, but when you look at it as a neutral, we'll get into it, but it's not good for football, mate. It really ain't.
Yeah, it's not at all. It's not at all. Like both the North London sides are in a bit of a shitty situation. I just circle back to, what season was it? The season when Leicester won the league, 2015, 2016. You had both the North London clubs finishing second and third. Obviously, Spurs finishing third in the two-horse race or whatever. But it's just crazy how much both sides have declined since that period of time. But anyway, a lot of comments coming through now, so let's people making jokes about me wearing this suit. It wasn't a wedding, people. If it was a wedding, I would say I get banter for going to weddings, apparently. But anyway, Dan, like you said, we speak a lot about how bad both sides are, but let's move off that and speak about one player, Lee's best friend, the guy that Lee never wants to celebrate when he scores for England, etc., etc. The most stubborn guy ever. But let's talk about Harry Kane, lads. Obviously, breaking news is that Harry is apparently telling people that the situation has been blown out of proportion. Let me just get up what he's actually said. 1 second, because it just sounds like a load of PR bullshit. So he has said, "It's almost 10 years since I made my Spurs debut. For every one of those years, you, the fans, have shown me total support and love. That is why it hurts to read some of the comments that have been made this week, questioning my professionalism. While I won't go into the specifics of the situation, I want to clarify that I would never and have never refused to train. I will be returning to the club tomorrow as planned. I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize the relationship I have with the fans who have given me such unwavering support during my time with the club. This has always been the case, as it is today. Harry." Thoughts? Lee, I'll start with you first. Or in fact, no, you go on. You, Dan. I spoke to you initially, so go on. Give me your thoughts.
Mate, I think me and Lee are fairly similar on this, mate, because I suppose, Tobes, if you put yourself in our shoes, say it was like, I don't know, 17 years ago and Thierry Henry comes out, says he wants to leave. The first reaction is laughable, isn't it? It's like, they're screwed. They're in trouble. It's hilarious. Their best player wants to leave. So, of course, when the reaction happened about Harry Kane wanting to leave, loads of my mates were all laughing. When you strip it back and forget that we're like rivals and that we support the other side of North London, it's actually bad for football the way this has happened. The whole thing stinks as far as I'm concerned. I look at the situation of what Daniel Levy is, and he has basically allowed Harry Kane, with Harry Kane's agreement, to sign a 6-year deal to say that he wants to be here long term. But what we have to take into consideration is that he has been very loyal to Spurs. He's stuck by a project that he thought was going to go upwards. And the minute I believed you got rid of Pochettino, I started seeing it do this again. And I think personally, he needs to be respected enough to say, look, I've been at this club for, like you said, Tobes, 10 years, and I would like to move on. I'm 28 years old. If I was 21, I would understand that I might be able to grow with Spurs. But I've been here for 10 years, and I haven't seen us progress to the level that I wanted. You got very close in that Champions League final, which me and Lee were very, very happy about that you didn't win. But, of course, that was the kind of top level for him. When it comes down to it now, he's looking at your long-term plan. And I don't think he's part of a long-term future because of his age. And I think he deserves to be given the chance now to go and prove his class. He is an elite striker. And if it is Manchester City that he goes to, it is frustrating for you as Spurs fans to see him leave because you love him. But I think he should be given that opportunity. However, saying that, they need to try and do something about this in gentleman's terms. And this gentleman's terms, or whatever they call it, that's never in a contract and never signed, is it? A gentleman's agreement, sorry. That's never signed and sealed and delivered. So there needs to be a little bit of kind of this going on. And at the moment, it looks like Harry Kane has made it very, very clear. And Daniel Levy's not budging. Now, the last thing I'll say about this is, do I believe that if I had Harry Kane at Arsenal and he had the career that he's had at Spurs in terms of the amount of goals that he scored, would I be happy for him going? No. Would I be happy for going for the right price? Yes. But what is the right price during a pandemic? Well, I thought it was about 100 million, but I've just seen Grealish go for 100 million. So I know he's a bit younger, but I think maybe Harry Kane is worth more than 100 million now, if that's the situation we're looking at. So Daniel Levy has a right to say, I'm not selling him unless you stick 150 on the table. Otherwise, he's staying here. He's got 3 years left on his contract. So it's a horrible situation, Tobes. And is it going to, leave a bad taste in Harry Kane's mouth with the fans now? Because the fans, as we all know, want all players to stay loyal to their team. And now that he's allegedly not staying loyal to turning up to training and stuff like that, allegedly, it might not stick well with the fans. So I think the fans deserve a little bit more respect. And that's hard for me to say as an Arsenal fan, but I think you do.
Yeah, definitely. Lee, I'm going to come to you next. What's your view on the Harry Kane situation as well, and especially zeroing in on that comment today? Like, is it smoke and mirrors? Is it genuinely a case of him being misunderstood? Because Nuno Espirito Santo, after our friendly with Chelsea on Wednesday, said he's not spoken to Harry Kane since he's got into the job. Harry's not even messaged him. So from when the manager's saying stuff like that, and you're hearing all these reports on your name for a whole pretty much 4 or 5 days, why are you only coming out today and putting out a statement?
Because I think he's been a bit shocked by what's gone on between the fan base. If I'll be honest, from Spurs, I think him and his representatives thought that the Spurs fans would accept it and understand it, but they've come out and been very anti against him. I've just seen some of the quotes after the comment, like, not believing what he's saying and things like that. The thing is, there's two sides to the story, of course. Now, Harry Kane come out, I think it was before he said that he wanted to leave. I think he was talking to Gary Neville saying, "Oh, if Daniel Levy gets £100 million for me, he might want to sell me." So obviously that was the figure that was spoken about. Now, I don't buy into the Jack Grealish one about 100 million. So that means that he's worth that, because ultimately Jack Grealish, they've paid over the odds for him, because they put that, as their Aston Villa said today, they put the 100 million in thinking no one would activate it. Well, Manchester City have. The thing is with Harry Kane is that, and you can go, and we've had it many a times with best players, Van Persie, we've had it with Fabregas and whatever. And let me tell you this, Harry Kane, whether he stays or goes, Spurs will survive, first and foremost. Arsenal, I remember when we lost Ian Wright. Oh, how are we going to replace Ian Wright? Nicholas Anelka come along. Oh, how are we going to replace Nicholas Anelka? Along come Thierry Henry. How are we going to replace Thierry Henry? Come Adebayor come along. Then Van Persie. You know, the one thing that Spurs, the problem that Spurs have got, and I'll be honest with you, Tobi, they have got a problem, is replacing his goals. But if they don't replace it this year, 2 or 3 years' time, they're going to have to anyway. So because he's going to be old enough, you know. So I get that, but ultimately, I think the best thing Spurs can do now is get as much money as they possibly can, and move on from it. And that is a difficult thing for them to do now. What is going to be the valuable side of it? You don't want to go into the season, and whether it's Spurs, I'm just talking like as a neutral, where you've got an unhappy player and he's not going to really put. I've seen that so many times with players with a year left of their contract, or not been happy about a move, and they've just sort of down tools a little bit, like not been 100%. Now Harry Kane needs to be 100%, and if he's not, then Spurs have got a problem. So they're going to have to sort it out. Like the fact of the matter is, and I don't care what any Arsenal fan thinks about it, or Tottenham fan really. Like, you know, ultimately Harry Kane has told the Tottenham hierarchy that he wants to leave. Now, once he said that he don't want to be there no more, Toby, I think honestly Spurs have got to try and get the best deal for them as possible. If it's 100 million and no more, then and I think Manchester City are playing that game. They feel that, you know, this has all been constructed, in my opinion. When Dan says about extinct and all that, I do think it's been constructed. Right, we'll say this, we won't turn up for training this week. We're going to make this and do that. They're talking. Manchester City and Harry Kane are talking. Let's have a fact on that, like, you know, because I guarantee if the deal goes through, say they agree with the deal, Harry Kane ain't going to turn down Manchester City on wages and things like that. It's all sort of gone on behind the closed doors. Yeah. So for me, it is really like what I think Spurs has just got to try and get the best deal that they possibly can. But the price is going to be the thing, because I think realistically, you know, knowing Daniel Levy, he's probably saying 150, 160 million. And
do you think that's fair? Because from my eyes, I think that's a fair price.
Two years ago, this is the problem. 2 years ago, I think that, you know, Harry Kane, 26, scoring goals, not so injury prone, right in the prime of his career, decided to sign a new contract. Why? He could have actually gone now for nothing, Toby. So there must have been something put in place for that. I think if there weren't no pandemic, forget about that. Tottenham would have had a bidding war here, and they'd have been loving this, because you would have had Manchester United definitely going for him. I think Chelsea would definitely go. Not saying that he would go to Barcelona and Real Madrid are ruled out of it, which they wouldn't have been. So it's really, at this moment in time, only one team going for him. So basically, that changes the goalposts as far as I'm concerned, as far as how much he's worth, because 100 million is taking everybody out of the ballpark, apart from one, right? And so they know, Manchester City know, that there's no one else in for him. So it's a little bit more difficult to negotiate if you've got 3 or 4 involved, you know. So that's a difficult thing.
I get that, but and the thing is, I'll talk on it broadly as well, because I don't want to take up the whole stream talking about Harry Kane. But first of all, on his statement today, I think it's bullshit. I don't hate Harry Kane, and to a certain extent. In fact, it's not even a certain extent. I can get why he's doing what he's doing. I get it. He wants to leave the club. He wants to engineer a move, and he wants to wrestle some sort of power away from the club. Because let's face it, you say, fair enoughly, you say that there's only one team that realistically could afford Harry Kane right now. Yeah, there is. You're right. Only one team. But we know that one team can afford Harry Kane to the extent where we can charge his true amount, and they'll pay it, because they've just paid 100 million for Jack Grealish. They've made him, I think, the first or second best ever British paid player in history. Yeah, they have the funding. This is a team who got to a Champions League final, and we both know how much money is to be made from that. They won the Premier League as well, and they are literally backed by by Abu Dhabi State. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, money is never going to be an issue for this club, and they have posed a serious interest in Harry Kane. I'll even go on Alistair Gold's comments. Pep Guardiola on Harry Kane. Let me see this. So he said, "Of course we are interested in him, but he is a Tottenham player, and if they don't want to negotiate, nothing more to say. And if they want it, we will try. That's all." So I think it's early days. I think, me personally, I think this is going to go down to the wire. I think they're gonna give us what we want for Harry Kane in terms of a cash bid, and I think he's gonna go to Man City. And I think, me right now, looking at it, 150 million odd is about right. But on his actions to the club, I think what he's done is a slap in the face for the fans. I'll never hate the guy for it. I don't think it taints his legacy.
Shouldn't have gone to that, Toby.
Yeah.
Tottenham and Levy should not have allowed this to happen for Harry Kane. Harry Kane, I'm going to say this now, whether you love him or loathe him, has been an ultimate professional for the whole of his career. He's done everything properly. Why come out and do what he's done? So something's bugged him. And I think at the end of the day, as Dan said earlier, and you have to say that, I think he's been very, very loyal to Tottenham, because 2 years ago, he could have actually said, do you know what? No, I'm not signing a new contract. And Tottenham wouldn't have got nowhere near the money we're talking about now, 100 million. If that's 100 million, with a player that was going to prepare to run his contract down, you wouldn't be getting 100 million. So and I know people are going to slag Harry Kane off, but ultimately, you know, he should never have been allowed to be put in this position. And that's what I think he's peeved off with him. I really do.
Yeah, I get that as well. And I think that was a great point which Dan made, because I will criticize Harry Kane, because I think he deserves major criticism here. The way he's gone about things is not good, and someone needs to tell him that. And it's not on. But first and foremost, Dan was right. When you look at the situation with Harry Kane, the first people you blame are the hierarchy at Spurs that have let it get to this state. Because, like Dan said, and I repeatedly say this on all my streams, yeah, people say it's stupid for Harry Kane to sign the deal so willingly and whatnot. And I agree to a certain extent, because a player of his standing, locking yourself into a 6-year deal with no clause, no loophole and stuff, it's a bit amateurish. So we can definitely criticize it. But at the same time, you have to look at the circumstances in which he signed that deal. He's signing that deal when Pochettino is still there, one of the best managers in the league. Spurs are up and coming, building a brand new stadium, surrounded by many informed players, etc., etc. And they've just let the team around him just fall apart. And they've not built properly and built properly and built properly. And there's only so much you can take. There's no way on earth a player can play to the level he played at last season, and you're finishing 7th, trophyless, and you're losing your last home game. It's embarrassing. So there are reasons. Do you get what I'm saying? That the reasons are valid, and I think a lot of Spurs fans would give him his blessing to go to Man City. Give him their blessing to go to Man City, but they need to make the bid that befits his status in world football. So Dan, I'm going to come to you on this as well. You mentioned it earlier, if Jack Grealish is going for 100 million, how much do you think is a fair price for Harry Kane? And do you actually see him leaving this summer?
So there's 3 things I'll say there. First of all, I think that I will see him leaving this summer. If I was a Spurs fan, I just want to get it done so I could actually get someone in. You do not want that going to the last day of the season, and then all of a sudden he goes for what, 150, 160 million, 120 plus a player, whatever it be. And then you're like, all right, I ain't got no time to replace him now. So I'd just rather, if I was a Spurs fan, get it done. And then you can go and get Vlahovic, you can go and get Isak, you can go and get Tammy Abraham, you can go and get whoever it be, yeah? I don't know names that you're linked with. I ain't got a clue if they're going to be at top level or if they're going to be at kind of young and what you're doing at Spurs. That's for you guys to decide. But I would rather get that done. What's a fair price for Harry Kane? I would have said 100 million, Tobes, in this pandemic. Now I've seen Grealish go for that. And by the way, I think Grealish is a fantastic player and I would have loved him at Arsenal. But I actually think that Harry Kane is more expensive for the pure fact that he might be a bit older, but he is literally at the best level you can buy a striker at between the ages of 28 and 32. For me, is you only have to look at Lewandowski. That is what you are looking at. I would say anything between 120 plus a player up to 150 is reasonable now, because I honestly believe he is that good, and I don't like him. Why don't I like Harry Kane? Because he's top class. That's why I don't like him.
Top scorer in derbies now. I think he's top scorer in North
Precisely. Yeah, he is
derbies
now.
now.
It's him and Adebayor, I think, was kind of joint, and now he's beating him. So I look at that situation and think, why do I hate Harry Kane? I don't hate Dele Alli and Harry Winks and Eric Dyer, do I? Well, I do, but I don't hate them because they're top class. Do you know what I mean? Because they're no good. So that's why I laugh at them. So I don't laugh at Harry Kane because he's bloody good. So obviously I don't like him. So is he worth that much money? Absolutely. What's a good deal for Spurs? Personally, because of the situation, I think you're going to have to take what you can now and try and use that to replace it. I totally agree with what Lee's saying. When I remember when Ian Wright left and I cried because I was in love with the geezer. We went and got Nicolas Anelka.
Crybaby.
I was a crybaby back then. I was very young, though, to be fair. But I remember
there's nothing wrong with crying. Disclaimer, people. There is nothing wrong with crying. So yeah,
but I was in a situation where I was worried when we were losing players. Lost Thierry Henry. I thought, that's it. How the hell are we going to replace him? Van Persie comes along. Obviously, Alexis Sanchez comes along after that. And then Aubameyang comes along after that. So there's always a replacement. And Spurs will replace him because they've got a lot of money to replace him with. And I don't know if you want to go for somebody that's, out there that's going to be giving you the goals that Harry Kane is, because I'm not so sure there's a guy out there that's going to do that. But trust me, you'll be able to strengthen 2 or 3 positions with that money. So it will not be bad news for Spurs. But you need to kind of do it soon, mate, because if you're going to wait till the 31st, you're going to be a few games in and you're going to have to be, panic buying if it gets to that stage. So the best thing in all this is to get a reasonable amount of money, in my opinion. And then perhaps you could, if they're, worried about money or whatever it be, City, perhaps you ask for a player. I'm not sure Laporte would want to come to Spurs, but he'd be an option. Nathan Ake, somebody like that. I don't know. Whoever you need in that position at the back, or if you need a kind of forward-thinking player, whatever, there's got some options there. If you just want money, I think between 120 and 150 now that I've seen Grealish go for 100, bruv.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same boat as always. I think whenever we speak, we're usually on the same page, or usually aligned on how we are and how black and white the situation is. But I don't want to speak about Kane anymore because Kane has been very much, it's weird. Our best player has been pretty much a dark cloud for the course of this week in terms of Spurs news. But we actually had some good news today, and I'm going to mention it, or we're on the cusp of getting some good news today or tomorrow. And I'm going to mention it before we move on to Arsenal. Christian Romero. Not sure if you lot done your scout report on him as well. I know because obviously you signed Ben White. You signed Ben White for 50 million. We're signing Kuti Romero for around 48 million pounds. I think the total deal is worth. Lee, you heard any news on Romero? And if so, what's your take on that signing? Does it sort of indicate that we're moving in the right direction, or is it just a case of it's just Spurs signing another centre back? There's still.
Do you know what? So I think like top class central defenders at this moment are hard to find. There's not very many about, is there? You know what I mean? And so you're going to have to pay, I think, a little bit over the odds to get whatever you want. Like Atlanta done very, very, very well last year. And at the end of the day, you're not going to go. You're going to go with a £30 million bid and get one of their best defenders out of the club. You've got to go in the top. And if I was Spurs, just like Arsenal, I'll be quite pleased with that, because it shows that that they've got a bit of money to go and buy central defenders. Now, I think both teams need to improve on their central defence in both, and well, in fact, defensively all over. So obviously, Spurs have looked at that and seen it as a weakness and got that. I'm surprised they let Tobi go, if I'll be honest. I don't really know why they've done that.
I think he wanted to leave. He pushed to leave, and I think they wanted to get him off the wages.
Well, so fair enough. So if that's the case, then they've got a good enough deal to get him away. Surprised by that, but I think that listen, Spurs are like Arsenal; they need to spend in other areas as well. But I think it's a good start. Listen, I think anybody now always build from the back. Start the foundation at the back, build from the back, get a solid back four, and then work it from there. And I think that that's what Tottenham have done, the same as Arsenal. I think that Arsenal probably spent a little bit more because it's Premiership experience. But listen, if you're defending in Italy, you're a decent defender.
Yeah, and he got voted best centre back in Italy in the Serie A last season as well. So
that's accolade then, because there's some top players playing there.
Exactly. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in a Spurs shirt.
But I will say this, Toby. Kolasinac got Germany's player of the left back year. Like, I don't know who was that, like, you know. So
yeah, he's crap. We don't talk about him. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to seeing this guy in a Spurs shirt because he looks the real deal. But like you said, Lee, both clubs have got plenty more to do, and that's why I'm going to sort of segue over to you, because my worry with Spurs is, yeah, Romero's great. It looks like a Titan centre back on paper, but that solves one of 6 or 7 issues that we need addressing, and we have so many holes in our best 11, and only one of those holes have been plugged. That's my worry, and that's where I was going to segue over to you. So Dan, I wanted to come to you on this as well, because obviously on the face of it, Arsenal £50 million bid for or £50 million move for Ben White. I'm seeing reports that you're linked with Maddison for 60 million. I'm seeing reports that you've had bids knocked back for Ramsdale. Jesus Christ. So I think obviously the difference between me and you is that, like, or us and you, is that, like, it seems as if there's a willingness to spend at Arsenal this summer. I think they know the situation you're in. You lot had that loan. I can't remember what loan, what it was, what the full terms were, but it seems as if you lot have got some cash to spend. But your strategy, as has always been the case for the past decade or so, is awful. I think 50 million on Ben White. He's a decent centre back who can play ball. Like, he's a good ball player, but it's gross misspending if you ask me. Right back is still an issue. Central midfield still an issue. Number 10 still an issue. Striker might be an issue as well. Lacazette, less than 2 years left on his deal. Not exactly a striker you lot want. Aubameyang, not really hitting the heights in pre-season as well. It seems as if you lot had, again, gaps in your 11, and only one of the holes have been plugged. So talk to me. Where's your head at now with the business you've done so far, and your thoughts in terms of what's left for Arsenal over the coming weeks in the transfer window?
Well, I want to make this clear, and everybody who has listened to me or seen me before knows that I am not a fan of this novice manager, and I would never have put him in the job. However, off the field, although there has been some mistakes in some of the signings, I can understand why we have gone for the majority of them. Forget the Willians and all that when Raul was still here and other people. Now, since we've had the clear out from the board and it's been Arteta and Edu, they've managed to put Saka, Smith Rowe, and Martinelli, as well as Kieran Tierney, on long-term contracts. We never saw that before. Yeah, always running their contracts down and leaving on a free transfer. We've managed to add to that the likes of Gabriel, Thomas Partey, and then obviously in the last window, we got what we wanted to do, which was Martin Ødegaard. Since then, we've signed the backup left back with Nuno Tavares, who I think will be a good signing, and he's definitely better than the god-awful left back that we've got in Kolasinac, who sucks. Yeah. We've got Lokonga, who is definitely an upgrade on Mohamed Sideways El Neni. And then, of course, we're looking at Ben White, who is definitely, whatever you think, an upgrade on Rob Holding. So I can see what they're doing, Tobes. They're trying to get a young crop of players between the ages of 18 and 24 that can grow together. Yeah. That's lovely. But I want to see it executed on the pitch. So before I start getting excited, I do not have the faith and belief in this manager that it matters who we have, whether it's Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe up front, or whether it is Aubameyang, Pepe, and Laka. I do not have the faith in this manager that we're going to progress. So I'm giving him the first 6 games because I think he's already had 18 months to see what he's about. So when I talk about transfers, I need to see it on the pitch. With our transfer activity, I get it. Ben White's a lot of money, yeah? But is it a lot of money if you then go and spend 60 million on Maddison, 70 million on Martinez up front, and then to get a right back like Max Aarons for 40 million? I think then it's all a lot of money. The way I'll be pissed off is if we spend 50 million on a position that I did not see as a priority and we abandon 4 positions that I thought we needed ahead of a centre-back. That's when I'll be pissed. So on the 31st of August, if Ben White's our marquee signing, I'm done with this process like everyone keeps telling me to trust. That's the way I see it. So I think, just to touch on your signing, I think that's wise. I like it a lot. I think the centre-half situation is definitely a problem at Spurs, and unlikely, I can see why you got rid of Jan Vertonghen and Tobi Alderweireld. You need to start again. That generation's done. It's gone. Yeah, the Walker Rose, Vertonghen and Alderweireld was great, but you now need a new generation. And I think, like us, you're now going to have to look at some young, vibrant, hungry players that can grow together, because I don't think you're going to get ready-made, proven world-class talent through the door in the Europa Conference League. So I think you need to start again with a new generation of players. So I can see it as a wise move. And, you know, at Juventus a couple of seasons ago, had a couple of loan moves, young, between the ages of 20 and 22. And now he's proven himself at a team that's, let's be honest, done really, really well with their manager in Atlanta. If he's got a defender in the league, best defender in the league, it's always going to be good for Spurs. So I think, you know, we'll soon find out who's got the better deal in terms of Romero or White. I think both are good centre-backs. I don't think either of them are crazy signings. I can see why both of them have been wanted by the clubs. But in terms of our transfer business, come back to me on the 31st of August, bro. And if we've got Ben White as our marquee signing, then I'm done, because that ain't enough.
I'd like to say on record that I do think Romero is a better centre back than Ben White. But listen, I'm not trying to stoke up rivalries just yet.
I'd say I haven't seen enough of either of them. I haven't seen enough of either of them, Tobes. So I wouldn't know.
That's fair. I won't pretend that as if I'm watching Romero week in, week out. But the little I've seen of him, and from what I've read, he looks a really good player. But anyway, Lee, I'm going to come to you on this as well. So Dan spoke about the young guard that you're trying to usher through, which is fair enough. Xhaka, Emil Smith-Rowe signed on long-term contracts, etc., etc. But it seems as if, like Spurs, you have these anchors that have been there for years and years and years, and they keep weighing you down. And for some reason, your club just don't want to release them. Granit Xhaka is the player that I'm going to talk about now. How has it gone from him on the verge of leaving your club for around 15 to 20 million euros to you lot offering him a 2 or 3 year extension? Kolasinac still at the club. Is Mustafi still at the club?
No, he's gone.
He's gone as well. So Bellerin's still there as well. Lacazette, I know he did okay in spells last season, but players that, by all accounts, your fan base are fed up with, players that are just not consistent or dependable for you, they're still at the club, and they're still getting backing from this manager as well. So talk to me about your thoughts on your mismatched sort of squad prepping.
Well, it's not all down to Arteta, if I'll be honest, that point of view. But what is down to Arteta is, you know, I don't understand the Granit Xhaka one. Like, you know, I have to be honest. If he wanted, it's the same with Harry Kane. If a player says he wants to leave, you know what I mean, then he leaves. You know, he leaves. But ultimately, if they don't get the right fee for him, a little bit again like Harry Kane, what do you do? Like, you know, how do you keep them happy? And it seems to be like, oh well, I'll tell you what we do. We'll give him some extra money to keep him happy. But ultimately, let's be honest. If Rome would have offered 20 million, then Granit Xhaka wouldn't be here. Like, you know what I mean? But then, so I don't know. I really don't know on that one. Getting rid of players, I think, is tough, Toby. Like at the end of it, because they're on higher wages. Let's be honest. Also, why it's very, very difficult at the moment is that there's no European market so much. The Europe, you know, when you've got teams like Barcelona having to let Messi go because they've got no money, you've got like Real Madrid, and so the teams in Europe, the market is a lot tougher to get rid of these players. So you ain't going to get a player like, I don't think at this moment in time, money for players like Bellerin and whatever. Now this works both ways though. If the clubs are skint, you can go in and get probably some good deals elsewhere, like, you know, and when you look at Spurs, for instance, when they're paying like nearly 50 million for a central defender from Italy, maybe they could have got a little bit better. I don't know, you know, if the fees are cheaper abroad. But I think that somewhere along the line you're going to be stuck with these players until their contracts run out, or you loan them out, or whatever. And I think the loan system is now being used a lot more than what it should be, if I'll be honest. And I don't really see how we're going to do that. The one thing I think with Arsenal, of which we're in a good position, is that we've got a lot of good youngsters coming through. You know, I had an argument with a Spurs fan the other day. I said, "Well, name some of the youngsters you've got coming through," and he went Skip. You know what I mean? Like, so I said, "Well, he's a decent
prospect."
So
Skip's a decent prospect.
Yeah, he's a very decent prospect, but I don't think he's in the league of someone like Saka, who's playing for England now, Martin, who's playing for Brazil, and Smith Rowe. But the one thing I've always said this is you can't rely on young players. I think it's unfair that, you know, you're saying to Arsenal at the minute, right, next week against Brentford, this play Smith Rowe in the hole. I don't think it's going to be an easy thing to do. You know, you look at someone like Dele Alli. Let's have a little look at Dele Alli. I think when he was young, he done an exceptional job in there. But, you know, now look at him, maybe burnt out and things like that, probably, you know, been sussed out a little bit. Like that can happen with Smith Rowe. So I fear when you keep throwing these youngsters in too much, it can burn them out a little bit, like, you know. Yeah. I think that's something that we've got to be cautious of. And I don't, even though it's great to have good youngsters, you've got to nurture them and see them through. So I really, you know, we're talking Arsenal and Spurs, but I can tell you this now: Manchester United are struggling to get rid of 5, 6 of their players. You know what I mean? Like out of the squad. The only 2 teams that haven't got to worry about it, Toby, is Manchester City and Chelsea. They can, whether they can say to them, "Oh, they can sit in the reserves or do whatever." I don't think there's a problem. So, but what the problem I've got, and I think the problem that you'll have with Spurs, and you'd agree with this, is that, okay, right, if they're not good enough for Arsenal and we can't get rid of them, then don't bloody play them. That's my argument. If you're trying to sell Xhaka, for instance, you're trying to sell Kolasinac, I'm trying to sell, so it's a couple of Spurs players I don't know being mentioned, and then all of a sudden they can't be sold. Oh, I'll tell you what, we're you know, come and play for us again. You know, and that's what worries me about people like, say, like Lacazette at this moment in time. I think Lacazette, as you quite rightly said, is maybe surplus requirements. So and Eddie and Nketiah, if I'll be honest. So those 2 players, I don't want to see them in my first team now. I don't want to see them in the Arsenal team. If you're trying to get rid of them, don't bring them back. And that's my problem with Arteta. Now, people are going to come back and say, "Oh, well, they're getting paid, you've got to play them," and all that lot. But ultimately, yes, you have from that point of view. But when you're 7th, 8th in the league, you've got to be looking to improve the teams. And, you know, I've always had this thing thrown at us, and probably you agree with this with Spurs, you know, when you was going really well. Very, very hard to get in another player, centre half, when you're 4th in the league or 3rd in the league, 2nd in the league. But when you're 8th or 9th or 7th, you know, it should be a lot bloody easier. And both Arsenal and Spurs at this moment in time are nowhere near that where they want to be. 100%. And they're struggling to buy players, you know, to improve on 7th and 8th. And that is my worry at this moment in time. With 1 week to the season starts, for us, it's, is it Friday today? It's Friday, don't it? 1 week, and we start this time next week. And, of course, Spurs is 9 days later. So 2 days, a big difference in football these days, because you can get 2 transfers done by then.
Yeah, but then even then, getting the transfers done, you still got a period of like a bedding in period.
Yeah, totally agree. But that seems to have gone out of pre-season for everybody now, didn't it? There used to be that time when you bed them all in, all of a sudden they chuck in, you know.
Yeah, it's an interesting point then. So, because I'm looking at it from a Spurs perspective as well. So my main issue with Spurs is we have a really big squad, but it's not that good. Like, we have a big squad. We probably have, I'd say, apart from the striker position, with the exception of Dane Scarlett. And apologies, I did miss a super chat. Let me just quickly go to it now. Toby, is Dane Scarlett ready for your first team? I don't think he is. Not to play Premier League football. Maybe Conference League, yeah. But big up Nippon as well. But anyway, back on my point. When you look at our team, we basically have like 2 players in every position. We have 3 left backs. We have, even while selling out the Verald, we have 1, 2, 3. So you got Dyer, Sanchez, Rodon, Tanganga, who looks like he's off to Galatasaray on loan. So that's 4, and that's without Romero. We got 2 right backs in Aurier and Doherty, and then midfield we have Højbjerg, Skip, Sissoko, Winks, Ndombele, Lo Celso, Ali. That's around 6, 7 players. Then out wide, we've got, despite selling Lamella, we've got Lucas Moura, Brian Hill, Son, Steven Bergwijn. and then we got one striker. So, like, we've got a big squad, but most of those names are not good enough to play for Spurs anymore. They're not good enough to play for Spurs. Like, and the scary thing is they're not good enough to play for Spurs now. We're seventh. We're seventh. We're not a good side, and they're still not good enough to play for us right now, and they're still here. And then I look over the other side of the pond. I look at the Emirates, and I see that same issue in your team as well. And what makes it worse is in your team, you have no Europe. You have no obligation midweek this season apart from FA Cup games or League Cup games. For me, from an outsider looking in, the main objective for Arsenal should have been to improve your first 11, cull the squad, cut down the players that aren't good enough, and improve the first 11. And when I'm going to hark back to the point I made at the start. When I look at the serious changes that you've made this summer, it's been minuscule. Okay, Ben White, 50 million. He could be a really good signing, but that's one position out of a possible 4 or 5 and you're starting 11. It's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for me. Dan, I know you're chomping at the bit to talk, so go on.
On Arteta and Edu's head be it, mate. If that is our only business, because they won't last. We'll be 8th or 9th again. Because this side is not good enough. It's proven that. And people can get excited and tell me that we were second in the league after the league started at Christmas. Last time I checked, the league started in August, mate. The league started in August as far as I'm concerned. Like, this league's going to start in August this year. We've got a week, and we're going into the Brentford game with Xhaka and El Neni in our midfield, which we've seen for the last 6 years, and we're going in with the same damn team that come 8th apart from Ben White. That's not good enough, Tobes, and I'm looking at that situation now worrying, and I should be. People are telling me not to panic because there's still 3 or 4 weeks left in the transfer window. We'll be 4 games in by then, and that might be 4 losses, 4 draws, 2 wins, 1 loss. I don't have a clue. But the way I see it at the moment is I'm not confident going in against Man City, Chelsea or Spurs with the team that we've got that come 8th last season. And in terms of the dead wood at Arsenal, I mean, why are we not surprised that we can't sell these absolute clowns? They've been at the club for so long. They are absolute toilet players. We're not talking about people that have got, our experience of winning stuff or international experience at the highest of levels. We're talking about Sead Kolasinac here, yeah, who's on 125k a week. Who's going to pay him that? Who is stuck with him? We're going to have to pay for his contract, mutually terminate it, and get rid of him. Bellerin. I remember when Barcelona wanted 45, 50 million for Bellerin 5 years ago. We'd be lucky to get 20 now. I look at the situation with Lacazette, exactly the same thing. Sorry, man.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and sorry, and I'm not trying to interrupt your flow here, but don't you think that that's an indictment on just the strategy at your club now? Because even if you compare it to present day as well, I was having a conversation with Turkish on this yesterday on the show that we got coming out. I look at players like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, for instance. I don't really rate him. I don't rate him, but Wolves wanted this guy last year. You didn't sell him. You then don't play him for half a season, and then you loan him to West Brom. Like, who's making these decisions? Saliba that you bought for 20 million euros or whatever, he's not kicked the ball yet. And he's got way more league experience at the top flight than a Ben White. Fair enough, Ben White. I'm not saying that Saliba's better, but I'm saying that Saliba is actually experienced in playing top flight football. Played top flight football for St. Etienne.
I say this to Arsenal fans, they don't want to hear it. All they want to hear is that Mikel Arteta and Edu are a new regime. The new regime of Mikel Arteta and Edu is that they're going to buy young players. Yeah, that's great. What are they doing with the outgoings? Because the way I see it is I do not want another Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation. Yeah, I don't want that. Sell him to Wolves for 15 million. He'll probably end up going back to somewhere like Palace or somewhere for about 8 million now. Yeah, just like we did with Kieran Gibbs that year. So we haven't learned. We're not learning for the contract situation because although they're getting the young players, they're still leaving Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette on 1 year. Who will
another one
as well.
Free. This one as well, giving old players long-term contracts.
Madness.
It's crazy.
Cedric and Willian, both on a 3-year deal, ages 29 and 32. What for? Pablo Mari's 26, by the way, so everyone thinks he's like 41, but he's not. He's only 27, I think, just this year. So I understand that. Yeah, he moves around like he's 41. Yeah. So when it comes to it, I I don't think that the Arsenal fans are awake at times to some of the mistakes that he is still making. And the regime has not moved on as much as we want. It's moved on better because some of the culture has got to be removed. And I can totally understand that it's a huge job. Yeah. Arsene Wenger and Gazidis have left this club in a mess. Get it right, people. Yeah. The amount of trash that we've got. But we can't sell these players. So I'm hearing the rumours that Joe Willock's off for 22 to 25 million. I like that. Yeah. Do you know why I like that? Do you know why I like that? And I'll let Lee come on that as well in a minute. The reason I like that is because Joe Willock will never be this much money for Arsenal. He won't. Because if he comes this season and he's bit part, Newcastle will say, yeah, can we have him on loan again? Or we'll give you 10 million because that's what he's worth. He didn't play him this season. He is the highest value he is going to be. Accept it and go and buy somebody in your midfield that can improve you, or another position of the team that we need. Go and buy another right back with that money, or put it towards Max Aarons or somebody like that. And that to me is an improvement on our first 11. Joe Willock's not our first 11. You know, Joe Willock's like an Oliver Skip to you or a Troy Parrott to you. Do you know what I mean? Good potential, but it's not quite ready yet. Found his level at Newcastle, played very, very well. And a lot of Arsenal fans are saying he deserves a chance. I think he's already kind of half had his chance, and I don't really think he took it. So let's go and be realistic about this with Maitland-Niles, Nelson, Nketiah, Willock, and give them a chance to grow in their career away from the club in first-team football and make that money and put it somewhere else. That's my sanity. I don't know what you think, Lee, but...
No, I think like with Willock, 25 million is a good deal. I think you've got to do that. Difference playing for Newcastle to Arsenal, different pressure, as you well know. So I don't think that's a bad one. You know, mistakes are being made on and off the field. I'm not going to continue and keep blaming Arsene Wenger. A lot of people and a lot of Arsenal fans keep going about, oh, it's Arsene Wenger's fault. Well, it wasn't Arsene Wenger's fault about Maitland-Niles last season. They had a £20 million offer for him on the table. The conversation around that table should have been, Mikel, are you planning to play Maitland-Niles this season or not? Is he going to be playing a regular? No, he's going to play 3 or 4 games. All right, okay, we'll keep him and then we'll loan him out in January. Load of crap. So as soon as that conversation was made, no, he's not going to be in our plans. Right, we sell him for 20 million. Whether it's a good, you know, and bite the bullet. 20 million here, maybe we could have bought in somebody else not last season. May have been enough money to get a while last season. I don't know. It's the same for when I look at it now with Willock. Willock's not going to play regularly for Arsenal, you know. So £25 million, you bite the bullet and take it. It's the same for Spurs. If someone's not going to play regularly for Spurs, you're going to get rid of him. Tottenham have, you know, done fantastically well. Get Joe Hart off the books, you know what I mean? Like, because ultimately he's not going to play that much. Get him off the books, done it. So Arsenal should be doing this now. You know, I'm afraid. Arsenal have got some good youngsters, you know. Nelson's a good youngster, could come and be a very, very good player. But at the end of the day, he's not going to play regularly for Arsenal. So if you get a deal, get it. But ultimately, it's still making the same mistakes. Eddie Nketiah is, I would say, £15 to £20 million player. Not with a year left of his contract left, he's not. You know what I mean?
And have you lot... Has there been any interest from Nketiah this summer? Because I remember in January the vibe was, if we don't sell him now, he's gonna get to 1 year left in his contract. West Ham were interested, Sheffield United potentially interested as well. So what's the vibe with Nketiah now? Because I don't really rate him highly. I think he's barely a Premier League striker, but he knows the back of the net inside the box.
I think just to tell him, if he gets a chance, you know what I mean, he does take chances. He's done well for England in the under-21 level, but ultimately, you know, I agree. You know, he's not going to make the grade at Arsenal, and the thing is with him, and I'll be honest, he has got a better chance of leaving more clubs with him being a free agent than he has with a 10, 20 million pound price tag on his head. So obviously, if he was to go there, he might have maybe 1 or 2 clubs interested in him. But come the end of this time next season, when he's with free transfer, there'd be 5, 6 clubs that would be prepared to take the gamble because he's a free transfer. So again, bad business by the people at Arsenal, and you know that I tell you what, you can criticise Daniel Levy as much as you like. You don't let that happen. You don't let players go out on the cheap and things like that. There's no way Eddie would be on a year's contract and still at Arsenal. Nor would Lacazette. They'd be gone. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where Arsenal have not been ruthless and not learnt their lessons. And because of that, we're suffering, and we will suffer until we get that right as well. It's not just on the field, that you've got to get things right. You've got to get it off the field as well. And if you continue making mistakes off the field and continually making them on the field, there's only one thing: 8th.
I think the Levy point is interesting as well, because you are right. More often than not, we don't really get bumped for our players in terms of moves away from the club, but it's also a gift and a curse as well, having that mentality that Levy has, because it hinders us from moving on players when we need to move them on, and it forces us to keep players longer than they need to, because we're just asking for an unreasonable amount of money. We are hoarders, similar to Arsenal. We are hoarders, and we're not the good kind of hoarders where you're hoarding antique like vintage goods. We're hoarding rubbish. We're hoarding trash that you wouldn't even find in a skip, and we're hoarding that in our team. And some of these players are playing in our first 11. But anyway, we're 50 minutes in. We've only got probably about 4 or 5 minutes left. So I actually wanted to speak about tomorrow's game just briefly. Are both of you planning to watch it by any chance? You're gonna watch it?
Yeah. Is it Sunday? Is it tomorrow or Sunday? I thought it was Sunday.
Sunday.
Oh, sorry, Sunday at 2 p.m. Because I wanted to get your thoughts, because I've not really watched Arsenal pre-season, but I've heard. Give me, if you're able to sort of summarize the highs and lows of your pre-season so far in 2 minutes from each of you, what would it be? And I'm going to start with you, Dan.
Nothing different, mate. I've seen nothing different in pre-season that gives me any confidence that we're going to go into this season completely different as a team. I've seen Kolasinac, I've seen Bellerin, I've seen Willian, I've seen Aubameyang missing chances, I've seen Lacazette not turning up, I've seen different players in midfield, the El Neni, the Xhakas, that are just exactly the same as what we've all expected. So I go into this game on Sunday and I'm expecting exactly what we got against Chelsea: mistakes at the back, lack of creativity, and some missed chances, bruv, because that is what this team is. They've showed us what this team are. So I would love for Mikel Arteta to surprise us and play Balogun. I'd love to see Smith Rowe behind him. I'd love to see the likes of Aziz getting involved instead of El Neni. I'd love to see the likes of Kieran Tierney playing in that back line with a consistent understanding of what's going on behind him. I don't really understand what we're getting at the moment, because I'm seeing what I've been seeing for most of this manager's era so far. The reign of this club has been really poor football, and it's been boring and unattractive again, mate. So what I'm expecting is probably a poor game, if I'm honest, because I was quite shocked when you read out the list of Tottenham players, and I'm like, wow, their squad is poor. It's a you know what I mean? Like, I was shocked at how bad some of the players are that are still there. You know, I thought you'd move some of them on. They're still there. And we're in the same boat, bro. I know I can't sit there and laugh, because we've got players that I've just reeled out that you're laughing at too. So I'm not expecting an amazing game, if I'm honest. The only thing I will say is that sometimes these things surprise us. And obviously we don't want to lose it. Yeah, it's a friendly, but it is a North London derby, so no one really wants to lose. So the situation I see is it's probably going to be a cancel each other out 1-1 draw. And, you know, I look at that situation and think that I'm not sure what Tottenham have been doing. From what Abby was telling me and Lee, apparently your pre-seasons looked okay. Our pre-season has not, in my opinion. Yeah, we spanked Millwall and Watford 4-1. That's the only positive, mate. The rest of it's been pretty shambolic.
Yeah. Lee, just before I come to you, me personally, I don't look at pre-season for an indicator of how good this team are going to be. Like, if I think the team's dead, I think the team's dead. I mainly use pre-season for just to build up players' fitness and just to see some new players in action. But personally, I actually agree. I don't think it's going to be an exciting game, even though I want it to be. I think both sides are coming into it where there's been minimal improvements in the first 11, and I don't really think there's going to be much to be excited about. But that being said, I'm actually going to the game, so I'm hoping to be proven wrong. Lee, just my last question for you then. Similar question, similar sort of questions that I asked Dan, just your general thoughts on Arsenal pre-season, and then I'm going to go one better. I'm going to ask you to give me a predicted scoreline as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, lack of creativity has been the biggest worry for me. Like, you know, I haven't really seen too much change when we've been at home. You know, listen, the result don't really matter. You know, we drew with Chelsea 2-2 last week. I know, like, it was 2-1, but there was a goal which was completely over the line. So I don't really look on the score too much. But what you want to see is a bit of excitement. And I'm not looking forward to the season. So I'm not excited about next week. You know what I mean? I'm not really bothered about going to games at this moment in time because I know what's going to be round the corner. Listen, I thought when a team like Arsenal come out, I thought like that I was going to, you know, the club needed to excite me. Like, you know, that's how I look at it. Like, you know, with transfers and all that, they've not done that. Yeah. What they might be able to do it within the next week. I think it'd be an open game because that's what pre-season is about. They'll be trying different things and all that. And I think a 2-2 draw will probably be about the right sort of thing at that moment in time. And it'd be interesting to see where both teams are. I think that Spurs are probably a little bit further behind than Arsenal because of the Harry Kane situation. Arsenal are a little bit more stable. So Arsenal should be in a better position. But ultimately, you know, that you just don't know what to I'll be honest, you don't really know what team Tottenham are going to turn out. And you just really don't know what a team Arsenal are going to turn out. And I'll be honest, Tobi, until Arsenal and Spurs buy some players, then I don't think we've got anything to look forward to. The pair of us. I'll tell you what this now, you must say this now. You put both teams together and it ain't a great side. It's not, you know, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to, I'd say it might get top four. It might. I don't think it would. So it just shows you the work that both teams have got to do.
100%. I totally agree. And I think we can end it there. Both teams in the mud. Spurs and Arsenal in the mud. Lee, thank you for coming on. My first time here.
I can't, as you're a Spurs fan, like
you didn't care about me being a Spurs fan when you're drinking the pina coladas I made.
Oh, listen.
I didn't even tell you. I made for the Arsenal for the AFTV.
One of the reasons I only come on here is because of those pina coladas. You know what I mean? It was absolutely awesome. They were.
Yeah, I made pina coladas and Lee couldn't get enough of them.
I couldn't get enough of them.
They are the best cocktail. I don't care what anyone says.
They are. Pina colada, and I'll tell you what, we was at that barbecue and Tobi, he performed wonders. I don't know how he done it, but he performed. that was awesome. That was awesome.
Dan, thank you for hopping on as well, man. It's always a pleasure. We'll continue to exchange messages on WhatsApp. 2-minute voice notes of us just ranting to each other about how shit each team are. And lads, I'm sure we'll speak on some point on some platform again this season as well. But thank you for hopping on. For those who are still watching, make sure you smash a like. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed to my channel yet. Make sure you subscribe to Lee's channel. Make sure you subscribe to the Same Old Arsenal as well, where you'll see Dan regularly as well. So the links to both channels are in the title, so it doesn't take much. Click the link, hit the subscribe button, and leave it at that. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll be back on Sunday to actually review the game and review the results. So let's see how much fun that is as well. But until then, peace out and take care.